welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate here on KCAA. I'm sitting here talking with Bille Colesstock from WeLease about the state of property management in Southern California. So we've just been going over kind of what's going on these days with the COVID restrictions lifting and AB 1482.
Yep.
So it sounds like kind of we're going to get back to normal, and
hopefully so. Hopefully the state will get back to normal. Yes.
All right. And so there's not going to be like a big lag at this point. You know, if everything goes into effect on April 1st, you expect to be able to execute on this legislation as you would have in the past.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we're dealing with someone who has defaulted on payments, and that's really the thing that's most affected now is the fact that you can't evict based on payments. Right now, we're in this lag period where you can, but you can't. You have to just make sure that you're following the process.
Right.
But as of April 1st, if they don't extend it, we are going to be able to evict again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so getting back to normal, and that sounds great. It feels good.
Yep. The market's doing well. Yeah.
Right. So the trends in the market, what are people doing these days? I know that there's so much equity built up in properties, and things feel a little bit normal. Maybe people are going to start to do something with that.
Well, I mean, we've had about 75 homes in our own portfolio that sold last year. Owners who were taking the equity out and either just cashing out or going and putting it into the market in some other way. So there's a ton of opportunity, especially with the equity that everybody's gained over the last several years. Okay.
Is there any particular strategy they're using? I mean, are we talking people going back to stocks or maybe out of state or small multifamily?
Well, so we often talk about ADUs, and so there's always that opportunity. There's a lot of people who are moving their money from one house into another.
Okay.
A good portion of our portfolio, though, is military who is gotten either stationed somewhere else and they're taking their money.
Is that's significant?
Well, we have a good portion of San Diego and Southern California who have military homeowners. They've gotten stationed somewhere else,
right?
And they're keeping that property because they say, well, at some point in time, I'm going to come back. Now, I call those folks landlords by default.
Yes.
They originally purchased their property for a primary residence. Then they turned it into an investment. And so we do always like to talk to those folks long term about changing that, because primary properties are never a good investment.
Right. No, it's an expense. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So you purchase a primary property for a different reason than what you would be purchasing an investment property for.
Absolutely.
And so now is an opportunity, especially with equity increases, that people could take those properties that they bought as primary, been renting it out for a while, and then now really turn it into a small multifamily or
starting the family enterprise.
Right. Or a better investment property or vehicle. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So great opportunity.
A lot of opportunity.
So, my sister and brother-in-law did that with a place in IB. They got orders about a year ago.
Okay.
And so I've seen it happen in my own family, but I didn't realize it was scaling that broadly with the military.
It's really everywhere. I mean, the lot of folks, San Diego and Southern California is such a dream location to own a home. So when you get transferred here, almost everyone wants to buy one, right?
Something to come back to.
And then they say, well, I'd love it here. I'd love to come back. So a lot of folks keep the properties, and it's such a good move. I mean, especially if you're on deployment or if you're stationed somewhere else, and you have somebody paying that property down. It's a savings account.
Right. Watch the equity just roll in.
Yes.
Wow. And rents coming up makes it work, because that was my biggest fear watching the last run up we had, especially in Imperial Beach where they had theirs.
Sure.
Rents weren't increasing, but the property value was high when they bought. So that's correcting, it sounds like.
It is, and it's correcting all over, and so all over San Diego and Southern California, the rents are increasing. I've seen statistics where it's as much as 20 to 21%, which is keeping pace with the market and the market increases. So the rents are increasing. We still don't get that nice number where you're selling it and then renting it for 1%.
Right, that 1% rule,
that's not Southern California.
No, it's an equity play, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. But so you buy properties differently. You just have to be a little bit more strategic and creative about how you're buying that property.
And wait to take your profit effectively.
Right.
Okay. Yes. So speaking of that, who is buying? What are the kind of the primary demographics of our buyer pool at this point? Like who are you seeing as your new landlords?
New landlords. So the People who are new landlords are people who are taking over family portfolios,
Okay.
right? And then also people who are looking at the development opportunities. That's what I'm running into the most. I'm not trying. I think that people are purchasing properties for, just a straight investment. Like, hey, I want to go buy a duplex or a triplex. That's out there, and we're running into that. But there is a really big opportunity in the market right now, especially with California passing so many or removing so many restrictions on the permitting
SB
process.
9 and 10 and
correct. And so there's such a great opportunity right now with what we can do with land and what we can do with urban infill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not seeing the typical kind of someone just buying a single for to start building a portfolio as much as we're seeing turnover in the family portfolios.
Well, we're seeing turnover in family portfolios.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, the older generation is passing on, and then we are seeing, though, that the younger investors, people who are coming in, are really reading up on this legislation and really trying to figure out how to hack and get into real estate so that they can start building portfolios.
Okay.
The mindset of younger folks, and I hope that a lot of folks who are getting into the real estate, when you're younger, you don't have as many commitments. Right.
Easier to get going.
Yeah, it's easier to get going. It's easier to scrimp by. It's easier to live in that back unit and rent out the front one and capitalize on that opportunity.
House hacking when you can tolerate it.
Correct. I mean, when you have 2 or 3 kids running around and you need extra space, it's not the best time to start that.
Okay.
Still, it doesn't mean it can't happen. Just not the best time.
But not the best. Sure.
Right.
So then, where do you see this going? The market trends being what they are. We're on a pretty good uptick right now.
Yeah, so I think we've talked about it before, where we're seeing everything that is pointing at the market is increasing, and it should be increasing for the next couple of months, at least 12 to 18.
That seems fair, yeah.
We don't see, we put a lot of stopgaps in place with appraisals and funding and requirements with lending that is not going to create that same situation that we had in 2008 and 2009, right? So I don't think that we're going to have that. Plus, I think that I talk a lot about the interest rates that people have currently in their current home.
Yes.
If you have a great interest rate, if you have a 3% interest rate and the market takes a dip, let's say
you're going to hang on to that.
You're going to hang on to that.
Yeah,
you're not going to sell that property. You're going to rent that property out and then go buy the next one if you have to make that move. If we're in a declining market, right? And I think we've talked about it in the past. I don't think we're going to have that 20%, 50% decline. And I don't want to say percentages, but maybe it's 8%, right?
Okay.
We can't go up and up and up and up and up forever, but at the same time, if we are correcting, we should have a softening of inventory.
Right.
The inventory right now is so tight that it needs to soften a little bit, and unless that happens, I don't see the market going down.
Okay, and maybe if it softens a little bit, that'll be some way to kind of level rents and whatnot, despite the being tied to CPI for your rent raises. It'll still be maybe a reprieve some longer term landlords need that weren't maybe raising rents 2 to 3% a year like they should be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, raising of rents is a whole nother topic, right?
Right.
But the market right now is lending to that it's going to continue the way it's going, and then also within that, though, there's still opportunities.
Got it.
Yeah.
So of the people selling, under management right now, are you seeing anybody just do pure profit taking and moving on?
Most of it would be those landlords by default, those folks who moved on and they had whatever their situation was, is it forced them to stay or continue to own that property. Those folks are profit taking and moving on.
Okay.
What they do after they've taken out that profit, I'm not really sure. Some of it's going out of state, some of it's going to other properties that they might have, but most of it is people purchasing another property after they sell their investment.
Okay, so that's interesting. I expected maybe more reinvestment even for that type of seller.
Yeah,
but you're not seeing that at all,
well,
or at least less than you expected.
Yeah, less. I mean, of those, well, you have to think about the people who have built up equity in the last 4 or 5 years. If they did, there was so much equity that was created in the last 2 years
Right.
because we had 25% last year, and then another 10 to 15%. I mean, so that's a 35-40% increase in your property in a 2-year span. It becomes a situation where, well, even if you weren't thinking about selling, you think about selling,
or at least maybe some way to get a HELOC on it, or some other financing to move into something else.
And the idea with a primary residence, I don't know if you've thought about it, but my primary residence, I have a hard time replacing what I have at the price that I'm buying, what I'm going to buy next, right?
Right. The move up doesn't work so well.
Doesn't. So, if I'm in that place with my primary, but I have this second home that I have $300,000 locked up in it, it's attractive.
Right. No, very. I guess maybe that will stave off a lot of the dip on the next round from people trying to spend equity when the prices come down then.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And that'll work across the entire, not just the primary homeowners, but also the rental portfolios, get some maybe buying power back. Wow. All right. So we've got 12 to 18 months kind of left to go. And if it starts to dip at that point, we might actually kind of have something to ride out.
Yeah, and I think that with how much equity is in the market, there's a lot of opportunity for people to ride out any dip that we do have. As long as you're doing a long-term strategy for any purchase that you have, we're going to be absolutely fine for any market that comes at us, any decline or increase, really.
Wow. I mean, it sounds amazing. Well, we're going to take a quick break.
Sure.
And so stay tuned, folks. We'll be back here on KCAA with Bille Colesstock from We Lease. And this is the Real Men of Real Estate. And my name's Dan Redig. We'll talk to you more in just a few minutes.